Situation on the ground in Afghanistan increasingly dire. A group of military veterans are mobilizing online to help desperate Afghans get through the gates of the Kabul airport. Using all of their connections and the power of the internet, they've been able to coordinate with people on the ground thousands of miles away and save those who could otherwise be prime targets for the Taliban. Joining me now is one of the veterans helping in this mission, Lieutenant Colonel Tripp. He's a reservist in the U.S. Army. Colonel, thanks so much for joining us. One veteran, one of your colleagues, said this was sort of like operating a giant claw game from 7,000 miles away. I'm sure it's much more complicated than that, but tell us about this effort. What's it been like putting it together and why you're doing it?
Sure, Jim. So why we're doing it because the administration is saying things that just don't seem to match the facts on the ground. There's a real throughput issue and there's a coordination issue. We're just not seeing the planes we need to get our folks out, all of these, not just American citizens, but Afghan allies, and the coordination. There's just a real severe lack of coordination resulting in confusion and fear for not just Americans, but also Afghans on the ground. And so you're seeing not just veterans, but State Department folks in their official and personal capacities who are coming together through different organizations across the internet to help guide these folks to the airport and rescue them.
And so basically you're talking to your contacts on the ground and coordinating flights, essentially, for these folks, so people know where they're going when they get to the airport, that sort of thing?
Yes, I think that the lack of coordination between DoD and Department of Defense and Department of State, we're seeing a lot of confusion from all of the folks that we're talking to on the ground. These are both American citizens who are stranded outside the airport, and these are Afghan allies who have served for 20 years to help us in fighting the Taliban. And because of that confusion, you have folks like myself and thousands like me who are stepping up to guide these folks how to get to the airport, how to safely navigate the checkpoints, and how to get through onto the airfield and then get outside and back to safety.
Yeah, I've seen it described as sort of a digital Dunkirk, what's taking place right now with you and some of your friends and colleagues. When you first saw those pictures of Afghans clinging to the bottom of a U.S. military plane, wanting to be on it, desperate to be on it, doing anything to be on it, what was going through your mind? What was going through the minds of your friends who put together this effort? Is that sort of when, sort of organically, you decided, hey, let's try to lend a hand here?
Jim, I think it started many years ago. Folks like No One Left Behind and Human Rights First have been fighting to get our allies out for years. And I think as we saw it fall apart in Afghanistan, more and more folks stepped up. And what's going through our minds, it's not just a disaster on the ground in Afghanistan. It's a mental trauma disaster playing out in veterans across the United States. People are getting text messages from their interpreters, from the people that they served with, whom they took, they defended. And they're saying, thanks so much. I know you did everything you could to help me. I don't blame you, but it doesn't look like I'm getting out. And unless something changes drastically in the next, week, we are going to leave tens of thousands of these people behind. So many of the different organizations I'm working with, whether it's No One Left Behind, the Truman National Security Project, a group of West Point alums, everyone coming together, we're doing everything we can to work within the State Department's guidelines, get these folks to the airport and get them out.
Let me ask you about that, because we're now hearing that the U.S. is trying to establish alternate routes to the Kabul airport because of the threat from ISIS. On top of that, we're seeing these chaotic scenes like Taliban fighters firing into the crowd, pushing people away from the airport. What have you been hearing about how difficult it is for someone to get to the right airport gate? Because that appears to be the source of so much of this confusion.
Jim, it's tragic. It's horrible. I have a chat open right now, and I've got literally thousands of chats coming up. And when people reach out to us, even American citizens, getting them to the gates it's a crapshoot, Jim. On Thursday night was our worst day. Maybe 1 in 30 of them that we got to the gate could get through. We're talking about even American citizens getting up to the gate. And because of that throughput issue and the lack of coordination in the interagency, folks are just not getting through. And that math problem doesn't work out. If we're leaving by the 31st, we will not get out all of the Americans we need to. And we absolutely won't get out all of our allies who've served with us for 20 years.
And of course, the president has said if we don't have everybody out by the 31st, this mission, this operation is going to continue. As you may know, we're going to be hearing from President Biden at the top of the hour, scheduled to hear from him at the top of the hour. As a veteran, what would you like to hear from him? What does he need to say to communicate to the American people the reality of the situation that we're seeing on the ground? Because obviously what you're describing, Colonel, is a lot more dire, quite frankly, than what we're hearing from the administration right now. So what would you like to hear from the president?
I would like two things. As a veteran in my personal capacity, I'd like to his recognition of the facts on the ground. Things don't match what he said in his speeches before. And so I'd like to see him recognize that Americans are getting harassed and are not getting through, and that there doesn't seem to have a plan. And then I'd like, what is the plan to increase throughput? How are we going to get not just Americans out, but these allies who have served with us for 20 years? Where is the plan? Let's step up and get some leadership and rescue our people.
Well, in the meantime, Colonel Tripp Adams, we appreciate the work you're doing, and you and your friends are stepping up and trying to lend a hand, just like you did when you were serving this country overseas. Appreciate that effort so much, and thanks for being on with us this afternoon. We appreciate it.